Think about this for a second. A battlefield where the decisions aren't made by soldiers, but by a single collective digital mind. Now imagine looking up and seeing a sky so absolutely packed with predators that radar systems they just can't keep up. They're useless. And here's the real kicker. All of it, this whole army of almost 100 high-speed drones, is being commanded by one single person. Just one operator, probably sitting comfortably miles and miles away from the action. Look, I know this sounds like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's not. This is happening right now. It's the reality of modern China's military tech. You know, while a lot of the world is still trying to get a handle on operating single drones, China has just leaped into a completely new era they call intelligentized warfare. So today, we're gonna break down the incredible piece of engineering that's making it all possible, the Atlas Drone Swarm Operations System. And let me tell you, it is an absolute game changer. Just look at this headline for a moment from Global Times. This is the story behind today's video. China unveils full process demonstration of Atlas Drone Swarm Operations System. Expert highlights algorithm-enabled combat upgrades. With that said, let's go straight to the intro. Alright, let's get into it. The world got its first real look at the Atlas system in action recently, and honestly, it's pretty breathtaking. We're not just talking about a few drones flying in a pretty formation. No, this is a fully integrated kill chain. And what that means is the entire process from spotting a target all the way to taking it out, it's all handled with this mind-blowing level of autonomy. So at the very heart of this beast is what's called the Atlas Triad. It's made up of three parts. You've got the Swarm 2 ground combat vehicle. This is the thing that totally wowed everyone at the 2024 Airshow China. Then there's a central command unit and a logistical support vehicle. And that Swarm 2, it is an absolute monster, just packed with 48 launch tubes. Seriously, when you see those things start to open up in perfect sync, you just know something serious is about to go down. But here is the number, the one detail that completely changes the entire game. Get this, a single command vehicle with that one operator we talked about can manage 96 drones at the same time. I mean, just let that sink in for a minute. Usually, you need a whole team just to operate one of these advanced drones. China has just completely thrown that rulebook out the window. The best way I've heard it described is like one person flying almost 100 kites on a single string. That level of control is it's unheard of. So the big question is, how on earth does one person manage almost 100 autonomous weapons at once? Well, the secret isn't just in the operator, it's in the intelligence of the swarm itself. The way these things coordinate is almost hypnotic. Okay, so it all kicks off with the launch sequence. The Swarm 2 vehicle spits out a new drone every 3 seconds. It's this super precise timing, and it's done for a reason. It gives each one just enough space to avoid the wake turbulence from the drone that launched right before it. And the second they're airborne, they instantly start talking to each other, forming what's called a flying ad hoc network, or FANET. Basically, it's their own private self-building Wi-Fi in the sky. Now, the real magic behind this network is a concept they call the smart brain. Think of it like this. Every single drone in the swarm has its own advanced AI brain. So these things aren't just following orders, they're actually thinking. They're communicating, they're sharing data, and they're constantly adjusting to what's happening around them in real time. What this does is it completely frees up the human operator. They don't have to sweat the small stuff, micromanaging flight path for 96 different drones. Instead, they can focus on the big picture, the mission. The swarm's AI handles all the really complex stuff on its own, spotting high-value targets even if they're hitting among decoys, deciding which drone does what, and get this, it can even reroute and re-coordinate if some drones get taken out. It's basically a decentralized self-healing network. So why go to all this trouble? What's the point? Well, the core strategy here is something called a saturation attack. Just try to imagine waves of almost 100 of these things coming at you from different directions all at once. Even the most advanced multi-billion-dollar air defense systems in the world would just get completely swamped. There's no way you can shoot them all down. For anyone on the receiving end, it's an absolute nightmare. Okay, so the technology itself is incredible, right? But that leads to the next big question. how did China pull this off so fast? And the answer isn't just about clever software, it's about something much more fundamental, the supply chain. We're talking about total production dominance. Let's just be real about this. When it comes to making drones, China is the undisputed king. You've got companies like DJI and CETC controlling a staggering 85% of the entire global market. That means they can churn out thousands upon thousands of high-quality, reliable drones for way less money than anyone in the West can. And this chart really drives home what some are calling component sovereignty. What that means is China controls the production of literally every critical part. We're talking flight controllers, high-performance motors, carbon fiber frames, you name it. So while other countries are stuck dealing with bureaucracy and supply chain headaches, China's integrated system lets them go from an idea on a whiteboard to a finished product in the field at lightning speed. It's like they don't just build the car, they own the steel mill, the rubber factory, and the assembly line too. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, wow, a ground-launched swarm of 96 drones is terrifying, well, buckle up, because that's not the endgame, not even close. What we've seen so far is just the start. The next evolution is already on its way. So the next massive leap forward is moving from these ground-launched attacks to something way more ambitious, and that something has a name. The JetSync. It's basically a mothership, and its whole purpose is to create, you guessed it, swarms of swarms. This thing is an absolute behemoth. We're talking 16 tons, a wingspan of 25 meters. It is, for all intents and purposes, a flying aircraft carrier for drones. Its job is to fly deep into enemy territory and then just unleash thousands of intelligent drones right there in midair. This is a level of power projection that was pure, uncut science fiction just a handful of years ago. You know, when you put all of this together, it becomes pretty clear that what we're witnessing isn't just a new weapon. It's an entirely new philosophy of war that's taking shape right before our eyes. China is shifting its focus to something called algorithmic mass. And what they're proving is that in the next war, the winning factor might not be how big your fighter jet is or how thick your tank's armor is. Instead, it's going to be the intelligence of your algorithms and the strength of your network. It's a huge shift away from big, expensive single platforms to cheap, numerous, and really smart ones. So the big takeaway here is pretty stark. By weaving together advanced AI, its massive manufacturing power, and some seriously forward-thinking strategy, China has basically cemented its place at the top of the high-tech mountain. The world has now officially entered the age of the intelligentized battlefield. And right now, it looks like China's holding the remote control. Hey, if you found this deep dive as fascinating as I did, do us a favor and hit that like button and subscribe. We're always digging into the absolute cutting edge of this stuff. And trust me, you are not going to want to miss what we've got coming up next. Which brings us to our final question for you. What do you make of all this? Is a system like Atlas the ultimate air defense killer? Or do you think there's something even crazier just over the horizon waiting to be revealed? Let us know what you think down in the comments. Thanks so much for tuning in, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.